so there's really no excuse not to listen to the Neil Archer Show. Well, chaps, it's too hot to wear the hat today. Now, I've got 4 stories here today that all kind of intertwine and show how dreadful the state that the UK has got itself into. Well, I would say our politicians have got us into. It's not us, we haven't done it. Anyway, the first one is about a school in Whitechapel, I believe, which is in the East End of London. And it's a primary school for young children. And none of their pupils, and I think there's 300 and odd, that's just under 400 pupils, not one of them speaks English as their first language. Now, I've spoken previously about the Islamification of England, or the UK, and the fact that a lot of immigrants, they come here, they create enclaves, and they never integrate into society and into the community. And this is, strikes me that this is a classic example of that kind of that kind of behaviour, of basically all gathering together. It'd be like English expats in Spain or somewhere that don't interact with the local Spanish people, but just keep as a clique within themselves. Anyway. So this school, apparently a few years back, it was feared that it had been taken over by some extremists, and it was going to be turned into, a sort of brainwashing centre to create extremists, more extremists. And I believe Ofsted, which is the Office of State Education, something like that. Anyway, the people that control what goes on in schools stepped in and appointed a new head teacher and so on. I mean, one of the crazy things is the head teacher, who I believe is Australian actually by descent, at the very end of this article says, the community here is wonderful. We are a very diverse school. Well, they can't be. I mean, if 90+% of their children are Bangladeshi, which apparently they are, then I don't think that's a particularly good example of diversity, but there you are. Anyway, the school is called Kobi Nazrul, which I believe is named after some kind of Bangladeshi poet, I think. I mean, I read this article all the way through, but it's awfully long. There's an awful lot of different kind of bits in it. Plus, I've read another 3 articles since, so forgive me if I get a bit jumbled at times. Anyway, so there's more information about this. Apparently one of their issues is that they have a higher than normal level of what we'd call special needs children, or children with what would have been called children with learning difficulties probably a few years ago. I'm not sure what the current terminology is, some crazy PC thing, I don't know. Anyway, that seems to me that's kind of indicative perhaps of the inbreeding problem that these enclaves have, and that I believe I've read that Islam has in general, that these people they all tend to marry within the family. They marry their cousins, and that so they come from a very small gene pool, and that kind of it affects them in different ways. One of which is that IQ levels are not high. Anyway, so there's that. What else was I going to say about that particular? Yes, apparently it says at the end of the street in which this school is the East London Mosque, one of the largest in Europe, which accommodates up to 7,000 worshippers for prayers at any one time. So that's one story. The next one is that apparently the French police are starting to slash the rubber boats that are coming across to Dover with all these migrants. Now, as a nation, we pay the French a lot of money to assist us in trying to stop these immigrants, but typically like the French normally, they don't actually do anything. Well, it seems that they have slightly changed their excuse me, they've changed their way of doing things, and they're actually beginning to help apparently. Anyway, apparently the immigrants themselves just taunted the police and said, if we don't go this way, we'll find another way to do it. So a result of that is that there are in the last week, I think more or less, there's been an influx of immigrants to the tune of, I think it's about 1,400, something like that, in the last 3 or 4 days. And when they get, this is another article, when they get here, apparently the first thing, excuse me, something tickling in my throat. Allegedly, the first thing they say when they get here is, "Where's the hotel?" It's dreadful. And there's some what do you call it? I can't think of the term. There's a chap here who's giving away the information. It's just gone out of my head. This is the second time I've done this video, and I did it a few minutes ago, and it worked out really, really well. And then somehow I managed to delete it. Whistleblower, that's the term I'm trying to think of. There's a whistleblower, and he says, where are we? He says the inadequate checks when these people arrive means that they're powerless to prevent migrants who have criminal pasts from being released onto Britain's streets and staying in hotels across the country. They ask us that hotel question immediately. He says they expect to get a hotel bed straight away, and that is one key reason they come to the UK. Now, this is just it's a shocking indictment of the government in this country, the current government, but it's also an indictment of previous governments because they didn't do anything about it either. The whole thing is becoming frightening. This is not the country that I was born in. It's not the country I grew up in. It's not the country I got married twice and had children in. It's a different world, and I don't like it. Anyway, there's a final story, and that is about apparently there was some Christian people preaching the Christian religion outside of King's Cross Station, and a police woman actually told them to move along because she didn't think it was right that that's what they were doing. Now, I don't think it's within the purview of a copper on the beat to tell somebody they can't preach the word of God. I mean, I'm not greatly religious. I'm probably not. I'm certainly not religious in a formal sense. But I do think that in terms of like freedom of speech and so on, there's no reason why people can't do that. And if you don't like it, just walk away. the whole thing that this country is becoming a cesspool. Anyway, a bit depressing. So thank you very much for joining me. Well done if you got this far, and I'll see you on the next one. Cheers for now.